folks. Welcome to our Immersion Future of Work Roundtable for October 6th, 2021. We're going to be talking about driving innovation, introducing new tech into a company. For anyone who hasn't met me, my name is Jamie Thomason. I started out as a simulation specialist, which is that human in the loop here at Immersion, and just fell in love with what we do. And now I get to host these amazing roundtables and bring in authors and speakers and leading practitioners. And I'm so happy to have you on board. And to Brian Collins, I met through networking. You never know where a conversation or a networking opportunity is going to lead you. Turns out we have lots of mutual friends, and he lives about 2 miles down the street from me. When we started deciding what we were going to talk about on this roundtable, he invited Jenn Lee in, and I'm so excited to have Jenn.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jamie. And so to introduce myself, my background is a little bit different. I started my career with the Walt Disney Company as a Walt Disney Imagineer. So I was in creative development, writing bad jokes for the Jungle Cruise and the Great Movie Ride, and creative copy throughout all the theme parks. Went on with my career and now work as a global innovation consultant. I founded my own consulting practice several years ago called the Brainstorm Institute. And a big part of that is working with new and emerging technologies and consulting with my clients on how to implement those into their workplace. And all of that, I think, brought me to you, Jenn, who I've known for some time now. Jenn is the head of technical innovation, if I've got that right, for Audible. And I will let you do the rest of your introduction before I butcher it too bad. So take it away, Jenn.
I'll butcher it for you, Brian. Hi, I'm Jenn. I'm head of technical innovation at Audible, as Brian mentioned. I've always thought of myself as a technology Tinkerbell. I'm a tinkerer by nature. I like to, if something's interesting, I'm very curious and like to play with things and break things. And I'm a huge Disney fan. And during the pandemic, I spent a lot of time in virtual reality because I really missed that embodied presence. And I went to a talk on how the pandemic impacts the theme park experience. And lo and behold, Brian Collins was there at that theme park thing. And we've been, sort of friends ever since that. And ironically, I was doing a keynote on virtual reality and came across Immersion during the pandemic as one of a very progressive avatar-based system. And, a year later, Brian reached out to me and said, "Hey, Jenn, do you want to, be on a panel with me? It's with Immersion." And I was like, "I love Immersion." So it's funny, like you said, networking, how things really all come together at full circle. So I guess that's my story. Yes, it's a small world after all.
Yes, it is.
Nice. Way to button that up and tie it in. You sound like a Disney writer there. Thanks for that, Jenn. Just real quick for those of us that are here that might be new to Immersion, very quickly, I just want to level set kind of who and what we are. We are VR for social effectiveness. We provide a psychologically safe space for learners to hone interpersonal skills through immersive interactions. And as sort of a peek behind the curtain, we have a simulation specialist, which is that live human in the loop that is driving those avatars in real time in customizable environments to deliver those scenarios to help your learners gain confidence in the real world to go out and have those difficult conversations in real life. Just curious, what are the challenges of introducing new tech and emerging technologies into a business, both from an internal and external perspective? So let's go from the outside in. Brian, I know you approach a lot of companies. What is that biggest challenge that you found?
I think the biggest hurdle that people have trying to introduce new technology from the outside is getting people to understand what that technology is and what value it can bring to an organization, especially if you're trying to sell it to management and you know, they're content with the way things are. You know, things are going good, things are you know, humming along. You know, why disrupt the boat? What do we need this fancy new technology for? A lot of times people equate technology almost with kind of like, you know, bringing in a new toy, and they don't understand the power that it can bring to an organization. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest challenges is being able to explain the value that this new technology is going to have within the organization.
Excellent. Now, Jen, is there, obviously, I know when from the internal side, you face some of the same challenges. Is there something that's different that you find, you know, from the inside and trying to move that progression forward and get that buy-in?
Yeah, first I'm gonna, as we say at Audible, +1 to everything that Brian has already said and add, yes, and doing your due diligence is really important. Knowing what problem that you're trying to solve and proving that there are no better alternatives. Sometimes you might not be substituting something, but augmenting what's already there with something that could better, you know, give better results. Other things like compatibility with existing systems, how easy is it to use? Are there any security or compliance things that you need to take care of? Do you have alignment with, you know, what your business objectives or strategies are? Obviously, there's the whole budget question. And then, you know, making sure that you have a plan to launch, get it adopted, and then measure its effectiveness, I think are what I would add to what Brian's already said.
Great. Do you have an example perhaps of when you've faced one of those challenges and how you were able to overcome some of those things?
I can give you an example from our previous company. That's a pretty good one, actually. You know, project management is something that all companies have to do. And I had, you know, a lot of companies have their homegrown tools for managing projects as we had. And I wanted to bring in Jira. You know, a lot of people have heard of Jira or Trello, one of those things. And it was really hard because everyone was like, this is what we're using. It works. All of our data is already in there. Everyone already knows how to use it. And, you know, for me, it was finding a pilot that could prove that it was successful and getting them so used to using it that they're like, you have to try this. And then they become your best advocates internally. And it worked.
Great. Brian, anything to add to that?
A lot of new technology these days, and I saw that there was a comment that kind of alluded to this, where I think that from David Skurlock made the comment that it's perceived as a game or as entertainment. And I think a lot of times that is a perception that you have to fight. When you look at new technologies, especially web-based ones that are out there, or if you're starting to look into exploring AR or VR, so much of that is often associated with the gaming industry, and trying to validate as I said before, the power that this new technology, business-oriented technology, can have on your organization is always a challenge. I will tell you that I'm also I have a pleasure of serving in the Air Force Auxiliary, and I've gone to a lot of military conferences on military simulation and training. And when you see what our armed forces are using, it's not that different than you know, an amazing console game, a Nintendo game, or something like that, or the VR, putting you in these immersive worlds. But it's very, very serious, obviously, business that we're dealing with in those cases. And in the corporate world, it's the same thing. So trying to get over that perception that a lot of these simulation technologies, especially, are more than just a cute, fun little game, that they really do bring value, is super, super important.
Yeah. And change is hard. people are in love with the legacy technology, but as we move to remote work, a lot of things are changing. Like a lot of companies are moving from on-prem architectures to serverless architectures and are realizing like huge performance gains, financial gains, productivity gains. People are moving to Zoom. Schools have a lot of move to Zoom like in a pinch like that. I attended Burning Man in virtual reality last year for the first time. I had always in my life been like, what is this thing? Terrified, but so curious. And I already said I'm a very curious person, but I was able to attend it in virtual reality and I would never have done so otherwise. So I feel like I was able to hit a bucket list item. And then, even conferences like in 2020, like when everything was canceled, it was traumatic, especially for those of us, who do networking as part of our jobs or people looking for careers. Afrotech was hugely successful, and I think really raised the bar for conferences with their avatar-based conferencing. And I'm sure Immersion saw a huge uptick while in-person classroom training was essentially abolished because everyone was remote, staring at their individual, and it's hard to role play with your peers when the game has changed, the environment has changed.
Absolutely. And obviously, because we started out in education, as you know, as a research project at the University of Central Florida. So we not only work in the L&D, diversity, equity, and inclusion, sales, service, we work with healthcare, we work with the Air Force, we do a little defense, we're kind of everywhere. But that ed services, to your point, Jen, when everybody had to go remote, a lot of the companies that were, or universities rather, that were utilizing us were doing classroom settings. And it was that final step that got them to start doing more one-on-one sessions because the students had to log in from home. And they were like, oh my gosh, this is so fantastic. And the feedback we got was great. But then when it came to the corporate world too, it was, everybody pumped the brakes for a little while. And so now I think we're at that point where this conversation is so important because everybody's trying to figure out, where do we go from here? How do we fill this in? And we recognize that a lot of the workforce is now going to keep working remote. Like life has changed. We are remote. And one of the things that Immersion did in response when COVID hit and everybody went remote is we actually designed environments that were Zoom call environments. Like you'll see, I'm in a living room environment. We have lots of various office environments, conference rooms, that sort of thing. But yeah, we actually did do some Zoom environments. In fact, we have my amazing simulation specialist on with us today. And I would love to invite, maybe we just have a few of our avatars that are on the Zoom call, if we want to pull those up and we can say hi, because you're going to meet one of them later. So why don't we use this as an opportunity to kind of introduce some folks. And so whoever's maybe thinking about being brave and jumping in for that later, they'll feel a little safer with this practice going on here. We kind of went around round robin earlier with Jenn and Lee and folks. Hey, Lisa, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. Can't complain. How are you today?
Excellent. Now, Lisa, do you always take your calls from in your kitchen?
It has the best light, otherwise I would probably be stuck in a closet somewhere. I like being out in the open, so I prefer my kitchen.
Nice. And you don't have to worry about the kids interrupting you?
No, they're all at school right now.
Oh, nice. And
yeah, we're back in person.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I'll go around robin. So I'll go to D. Hey, D, that is an amazing view you have back there. Now, is that a virtual view or is that your actual, do you get to see that every day?
No, this is my actual breakfast nook. I always take my calls here. Kind of like Lisa, I don't want to be stuck in my office on Zoom calls. It's better lighting and a nice view.
Yeah, no, I know I said I was going to go round robin, but I'm afraid, Caesar, are you with us?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Just taking a call. Sorry about that. What was the question?
Well, we just, we have all these great attendees here. I've got Brian and Jenn, and we just kind of wanted to say hello. So it would be nice if you could just give us that moment of
yeah,
time.
sorry. I'm a bit distracted today. Apologize for that.
I see that. All right. Well, thanks for being here. Let's see, Emma, I'm glad you you were able to get logged on today. I know you were having a little technical difficulty the other day.
Yeah, I don't have like a gorgeous kitchen or breakfast nook or anything like that, but here I am in my office.
Well, I'm happy that you were able to get back logged on to your computer. I know you said you were locked out the other day. So
Yeah.
happy to see you. And Raymond, how you
Last
doing,
but
sir?
certainly not least, right? I'm all right, you know, just working from home today. Normally I'm in the office, but working from home today.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We usually see you in the office. Well, folks, I really want to get back to this conversation with Jenn and Brian, but I just wanted to say hi and you know, just we might be seeing one of you a little later on. All right.
Great.
Great. Caesar,
talk to
can I
you.
ask that maybe in
Thanks, everyone.
about 10, 20 minutes you come back and visit us?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
Great. Thanks. I'll send you an invite. Jen had talked about, you know, being intrigued that we can actually do lots of avatars all at once. So that was a fun little thing just to say hi to them. And I also kind of wanted to do that just so that we can, you know, maybe get you feeling a little better about talking to an avatar, because we're going to be talking to Caesar a little later on. But to your point,
Caesar.
Brian, you know, it was mentioned, I think, by David, and you addressed the gamification of it all. And that it's interesting because some people, like the way it put, it almost seemed like a negative thing, but a lot of people, I think that's what draws them to it, you know? So it's, how do you find that way of making it interesting and getting them excited about it? I think that's the point of making it something that feels a little more like a game than just, you know, sit and watch this video and do these multiple choice questions.
So, you know, one thing I'll say is, you know, putting on my Disney hat for my Disney days is that for us, you know, it's all about how do you tell a story, and whether you're trying to convey a story about a ride or an attraction in a theme park or a business story, a lot of those principles are still the same thing, you know, to make it captivating and interesting for the people. One thing that's really interesting about new technology adoption, especially in the corporate world, is that when you look at the workforce, how, you know, it's getting younger, the people who are entering into the workforce now, and probably for some time, have grown up using gaming and gaming technology in all aspects of their life, from not only traditional games, but everything from, you know, ordering groceries or whatever it may be. So seeing that same technology being adapted by the corporate world and the workforce is something that they're very used to and very comfortable with. It's the older folks like me and you know, the ones who have been around for a long time that grew up in the old way of doing things that sometimes will look at these new ways of delivering information and be a little bit resistant. You know, how can that be really effective? How can that be really, you know, productive if you're talking to synthetic avatars or if you're in a virtual environment or something like that? So I think a big part of it is kind of understanding the changing demographics of the workforce as well. It's much easier, what I found in my consulting work, to speak to people who are of the you know, Gen X and below, to really kind of want to adopt that, and not only want to adopt it in the workplace, but find it exciting and really see the amazing possibilities of what these platforms can do.
I love that. It sort of speaks to what Jen was saying of finding your champions and perhaps doing those pilot programs, bringing,
Absolutely.
a cross section of people in too, because I was really surprised. We did a roundtable a while back with the Bruce Foundation, who's been working with Goodwill, and he was surprised. It was actually not those Gen Xers that were the ones that were most excited about it, but those that are closer to our age group that were intrigued by it, because they were actually getting that safe space to learn and have those conversations that I think some of our younger generation have a better recognition of the importance of these conversations and having them, because we brought them, they've come through the ranks a little better in terms of training, and we didn't really have that when we were going to business school. So it's really interesting, and I think it, to Jen's point, within your own organization, you have to find those people that are going to clue in and really, be that champion for you. And Janet brought up that she works a lot with students, and that they're concerned about the ethics relating to AI and privacy and who gets to see the data and all of that. And I mean, I know we have all sorts of security approvals through Immersion, but I'm just curious, Jen, I know, how do you guys respond to people's concerns with regard to data privacy, or getting them to feel like if they're, they can come in and do this, and it's not going to be, everybody in the company is not going to see what they're doing or have access to what they're putting in?
That's one of the first things we look at, like the safety and privacy of employees in any system that you bring in, especially for learning and development, where you want them to feel safe, right? Psychological safety is really important in making an inclusive environment and helping your teams grow. So I completely agree with that sentiment. And I think, like, my kid always says to me, like, Mom, you're giving away all your information on Facebook already. Like, what's it matter? And I'm like, hey, like, it does matter, right? But it's strange when you think about it. Like, everything that we do is out there. So we have to be really diligent at protecting our employees. And so working with companies like, Immersion to talk about how we don't share, what an employee, videos of what the employee does with avatars or whatnot, I think those are great questions to ask.
For sure. And, we were talking about doing those pilots, finding out who those stakeholders are that you need to get in to try out whatever it is, or in your case, to do that pilot and say, use this program, let me see what you think, and then make a decision. And so that's kind of what those pilot programs are for, right? Is to get somebody to try it and then get everybody excited. But what happens next? Like, where do you go from there? How does that not become the end? How do you scale that out from a pilot to that large regional or even a global rollout?
Yeah, I guess I'll grab this. So, you need to start not just with a pilot, but with a goal for the pilot. Make it an experiment. You need use cases and track that against an important metric, a metric that, will catch the eye of those who would sponsor it. And, whether it be number of courses completed, engagement scores, net promoter scores, stuff like that. And then, carefully start to find other, areas of your organization who, whatever the technology is, could also, has that use case that they need to move the needle on that metric, and then start to show them that, using the technology, you can move the needle, you can increase your engagement scores, you can, get more people to go through the trainings.
I'll kind of chime in from the external point of view as a consultant. It's not uncommon for a client to come to me and say, hey, I found this great new technology and I can't wait to roll this out to the entire organization. And I'm always kind of like, whoa, no, not so fast. Let's, maybe scale this down a little bit and do that proof of concept first, so that you're comfortable with it. the organization is a little bit comfortable with it before you start sending it out to the masses. So sometimes you have kind of like the opposite problem where people are like really anxious and want to get it out there to the entire organization. And the larger the organization is that you're adapting technology into, the more challenges you're going to have, just, you know, due to like IT concerns and firewalls and things like that, privacy issues, all these different things come into play. For smaller organizations, you still have a lot of those, but they're not quite to the scale, obviously, as they would be for a global organization, certainly something like Audible, you know, or something that large. So I always try and encourage people to, when they're adapting a new technology, to kind of do a small beta test first and kind of kick the tires, if you will, get used to it, and then look at how we can scale this up.
And not every technology needs a global rollout, right? You might, you know, have niche cases where you're like, this technology is better for this use case for these people. So I think that's another great thing to bring, you know, to leadership is, you know, sometimes you have to ask for a pony when you really only want, like, you know, a new folder from, you know, Target. That's what I used to tell my kid when she was little. Ask your dad for a pony if you really want that little thing. So I think it's the same, you know, with technologies. If they come in thinking, oh, this thing is going to cost me so much money, how am I going to roll it out? Say, well, let's just start here. And then if that works great, we'll find another place where it's applicable and just start putting it where, you know, we need to.
I love that. Ask for a pony. So you can get that folder out. Sustaining the innovation long-term and not having that one and done mentality. And I would imagine kind of what Brian was talking about of scaling back and is giving them the opportunity of then figuring out how you can grow so it's not one and done. But just curious if you have any other thoughts on that.
One thing I would say is, you know, the one thing you can always be certain about with technology is that it's always going to change and evolve and modify itself. You know, going back into my Walt Disney days, Walt used to say, you know, Disney World's never going to be completed. We're always going to be looking at how we can evolve and change and make it better. And it's the same thing with technology. So a lot of times, what I found is that once a company, if they commit to a certain type of technology and a platform, it takes a lot of work up front to get that integrated into the organization on so many different levels. Not only the technical levels, but the HR levels of getting people, you know, accepting of the tech and wanting to use it. And how frustrating is it when, you know, you've got like a, let's say a mail platform that you've been using for like 10 or 15 years, and all of a sudden the company comes through and says, no, we're going to change now to something completely new. Employees are not really crazy when that kind of thing happens. So I think part of the sustainability is understanding what the new technology can do for you and kind of looking ahead at how you can plan to kind of grow it and have those conversations with the organization that's providing the technology. You know, what are your plans to kind of grow and scale this in the future as well?
That makes a lot of sense. And cut out to Jenn. I know Jenn does a lot of work with women in tech and working with a lot of organizations that are focused on more diversity and inclusion within tech. And I'm just curious, how does diversity contribute to innovation?
My God, diversity is the foundation for innovation. I think, I mean, there's so many books and speakers and information out there about like examples of where, you know, when non-homogeneous groups are together, like they bring with them their life experiences, their ideas, and different perspectives that, you know, allows you to push the envelope just a little bit further and truly innovate. You know, a bunch of the people with the same experience in the same room trying to solve the same problem isn't going to get you as far as, you know, all different people with different ideas. Actually, Brian might be better at answering that question.
You know, I think you make a good point that having a lot of different points of view in the room is super important. When people, and a lot of times, I know when I'm doing like a brainstorming session, for example, I like to bring people in who are outsiders, who don't understand that or come from the world of what we're talking about. There's, an old saying that outsiders are the ones that drive innovation because they don't know what rules can be broken and how to implement things. So I love your comment there about bringing in a mix of people. I think that's super, super important.
Absolutely. I mean, I have to say that for us, of course, we at Immersion have been doing a lot of work in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, and obviously saw quite an uptick on that. So we really, for us, that drove some innovation on our side. We brought in a panel of experts to really review what those scenarios are, what those conversations would look like, what training we need to give to our simulation specialists so that they feel safe and empowered to have those conversations, and exactly what that looks like so that it is done in a fair and equitable way and a consistent way across organizations so that they can trust what that training looks like. So that's just an example of how that has been driven, from our side as well.
And performance. You've just led a daily stand-up with your team, and during this call, you noticed that Caesar was disengaged. You've asked him to reconnect on a separate call for individualized coaching. So the desired outcome of the conversation is to support Caesar and provide some effective coaching for him. Some strategies you can consider be to probe and actively listen to their concerns and issues, provide appropriate supports and accommodations, and lastly, to gain shared ownership and agreement on next steps moving forward. Do you have any questions about the scenario?
No, I think we're good.
Great. So what's going to happen next is I will get you into your Zoom call with Caesar. He can see and hear you in real time. If you need to pause the simulation, just say pause and I will return and answer any questions that you may have. Also, because this is a demo, as you know, we might have to end the conversation early. So if that happens, please know that it is not a reflection on your performance at all. I'm sure you'll do great.
Hey, Caesar, how are you doing today, buddy?
Hey, Brian. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. It won't happen again. I apologize for that.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, well, I wanted to talk a little bit because usually you're pretty heads up employee for us and pretty sharp and everything. But I have noticed the past couple of weeks, it seems like you've been really distracted, and especially during our Zoom calls. Now that we're meeting remotely and everything, rules are a little bit different, obviously. But um, is there something going on that we should know about? Why you're seem so distracted on your phone?
Well, look, again, I apologize for that. I won't let it happen again. Everyone's dealing with some stuff. I'm not any exception to that, and I will do my best to not let it interfere with my work. I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah, it's just really a very poor reflection on not only yourself, but if when we have clients or something on the call too, it just looks bad for you, and we don't want you looking bad either. We have not yet put a policy in place, no phones policy in place, but something that we've been considering. So we definitely want to try and mitigate any kind of efforts to have our employees look bad, have you look bad, and if you're speaking, especially when you're speaking to your colleagues internally, um, you need to be able to give your full attention.
Yeah, I totally understand that, and maybe today wasn't the best day for me to be on calls. I do have some stuff going on, and I understand exactly what you mean that I don't want to make myself or the company look bad. So maybe today was um, needed to be a mental health day, but I also just, I really want to be there and not miss anything.
Okay. Well, we certainly understand, when things are going on. If there's someone in HR that you'd like to speak to, we can certainly make some recommendations for that. If there's some extenuating circumstances that we can help accommodate with, we want to be able to do that. Would you like me to reach out and maybe have someone from HR get in touch with you to see
Oh,
what we can
yeah,
do,
no,
or?
that's okay. It's not it's not a secret or anything like that. I'm happy to let you in on what's going on. I just, I didn't want to bring the team down, but um my father passed away this week, and
Sorry to
we're
hear
just
that.
trying to, yeah, it was a long time coming. He's at peace. We're all at peace with it, but I'm getting a lot of um condolences text messages and questions about the planning and things like that. So um it's been difficult to deal with the the flood, honestly. I mean, he was very, very well loved, and a lot of people have been reaching out, and so it's just, you know,
Have the conversation over. Is there anything that you would have done differently with talking with Caesar?
Yeah, I probably would have been a little bit better prepared to offer some follow-up alternatives with him. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's really important. I felt good about offering him the support of HR. Sometimes being a little bit too understanding can come across as a bit of weakness from a management point of view. So as I was like talking to him, that kept going through my mind. Is like, am I not holding him accountable enough?
Yeah. I understand where you're coming from with that. I do think that management should come from a position of leadership and a position of strength, but I also wonder what it might have looked like if you had said, "Listen, I empathize. I understand that everyone's going through stuff. I'm going through stuff myself as well, and we want you to take care of yourself as well as this job. Both of those things should be taken care of. So what can we do to help you take care of yourself so that you can perform at the level that we are accustomed to?"
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think there's room for empathy and strength as well. And I could feel you wanting to empathize with him more, but also hesitating.
Yeah, part of that probably comes from my background, not having been in the corporate world for a long time, and
Yeah.
being a little bit
Bring
rusty.
Jen back on here. Thank you, Brian, for being brave and jumping in there. We just always like to show just a little interaction so you know what things are like and what those conversations are like at Immersion. Pretty quickly, the one thing that we talked about was getting people interested, getting them invited, getting them buy-in. But really, when it comes down to it, the people with the purse strings want to know that ROI. Any advice on how to measure that or how to show that in advance? Because obviously we can show it after the fact. We can give you case studies of what others have experienced. And I'm sure that's part of what you can share, but I'm going to ask you that question as we wrap up here.
Yeah, it's all about, the use cases and, proving out, we have a gap here, this is what this tool can do for us. Let's try it out, prove yes or no, does it work? If yes, then advance, do not, you can pass go, collect your $200 and move on.
Thanks, Jamie. I love Immersion. I love what the product does, how it keeps evolving and changing with the times. Wonderful. If anyone out there is on the fence, make sure you give it a test drive because it's a great product. And I was not paid to say that.
And the VR aspect of it, if anyone else is struggling to get buy-in for VR, both Brian and I are avid VR folks who are well plugged into the VR community. So happy on that front as well.
Absolutely. All right, folks, have a beautiful day, and we will see you in 2 weeks when we talk with Deb Glaser from Google. See you then. Bye-bye.